Hi, I'm Ted Head, and I'm going to show you this really cool technique to be able to get the grasses looking like I have here in this watercolor. I'll be using a ruling pen and some masking fluid, and I'll be layering it on in different shades of color, getting darker and darker as we go. So this is really cool. So you ready? Let's paint. All right, here's the effect we're going to be achieving. And this is done by using what's called a ruling pen. Here's a ruling pen right here. They come in different shapes. This is one I've had for a long time, and it's stainless steel. Can't find this one anymore. But there's several inexpensive ones out there that work just fine. And the way it works is by turning this dial, this opens up or closes tight. The more open it is, the thicker the masking fluid is, and the tighter it is, the thinner the lines, such as in here, or even doing whiskers, eyelashes, things like that. So it's amazingly versatile tool. The masking fluid I'm going to be using is this Peblo drawing gum. There's several different masking fluids out there. Misket is a good one. There's several of them. I prefer the ones that have some coloring in it. Several of them are just white, which can make it difficult to have white on white. So the coloring helps you see where it's at. And it is basically like a watery rubber cement. And it's done by dipping into it just a little bit. And about a quarter of an inch like that. Let me remove this. And it's done by putting, and you've got to practice this. Let me open it up a little bit so it comes out. And it takes a little bit of work to get the feel for it. There we go. What I'm going to be doing is putting down the first layer here. Well, this doesn't want to cooperate today. Let's see. Let's try that again. There we go. So I'm just going to do several different grasses that are going to cross each other. One thing I don't like is cookie cutter. You don't want to have everything in the same direction, spaced apart evenly. Grasses and other things like that are all rather haphazard, and they tend to go in groups. So what I'm doing here now is I am preserving the white of the paper. So I've just lightly sketched, for no particular reason, some of the grasses on here. I would sketch the boat out, but don't have to sketch the grasses in because I'm not following any pattern or anything. I'm simply making this up. Or as Bob Ross would have said, I'm making happy little grasses. So, and I can cross over, no problem. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of these. I just want to give you an idea. So what I'm doing now is I am trapping the white paper underneath the masking fluid. And what's going to happen is when this dries, and it takes about 10 minutes to dry, and you need to have it completely dry, I will go back in and I'm going to do a wash of my first light color. So I'm going to use a yellow on there, a yellow ochre, something like that. And I'm just going to paint all over, and I will dry that with a hair dryer, and that won't affect the masking. Let me tell you this is important. I am using 100% cotton paper. This is Arches 300 pounds, so it's thick. It can take abuse, it can take lifting, it take all sorts of things. Probably 140 you would be okay, but it has to be 100% cotton. I've seen people use cheaper cellulose paper before, and they go to rub off their masking and it tears the paper. Don't want that. So 100% cotton is very important. So I'm going to leave that right now. I'm going to let it dry, and we're going to come back and I'm going to show you the first wash on here. All right, this is dry now. I actually used a hair dryer set on warm, never heat, but cool or slightly warm is just fine. So what I'm going to do now is just grab, let's grab a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm just going to come in, I'm going to fill the whole area in. This will become the second color. When I rub this off, what I've put down so far will be pure white. Now the idea is I'm putting down a light color, and I will, when this is dry, I will have to dry this. You always put masking fluid on dry paper. Has to be. Otherwise, forget it. I'm going to come up here and just do some grasses that will be going up into the sky area up here. So let's see. Now I could do this in the reflection too. When I did these, I could come down and do that. One thing we don't want to do is get too detailed. We're basically painting shapes in here with some of these standing out in the front. So now I've got that done. I'm going to go ahead and dry it. Be right back. Okay, this is now dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the masking fluid again. Do make sure the paper's dry. One way you can tell is feel. If it feels cool to the touch, then it still has moisture in it. This is a long process, and it can take several layers, or you could use 2 or 3. The more you do, the more color and depth it's going to have. But it is a time-consuming way to do things. So I'm going to go in now, and anything I put down now is going to trap that yellow ochre under it. So I'm just going to do some more arbitrary. Here we go. My pen is not cooperating today. So I'm going over areas that I haven't gone over mostly, but then of course I'm also crossing some of the grasses that I've done. So this is creating the yellowish grasses. I start at the bottom because it's usually thicker, and then it thins out as it gets near the top. I should go slower. I'm actually going too fast because I don't want to hold you too long here watching this. All right, that should be enough. That gets the idea across. And as I said, I'd be coming down at the bottom too, imitating or reflecting these angles of these pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that and be right back. All right, I'm back. One thing I didn't mention was how to clean these. The best way to do it is take a paper towel, because it is, no matter what the brand is, it dries on it. It's not porous, so it's easy to clean off. Open up this a little bit. It looks like tweezers. And just come in with a paper towel and carefully wipe it out. And you're good to go. One thing you've got to be careful is not to over tighten this. So especially with the more inexpensive ones. So I'm going to go ahead and do my wash now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some green. I'll be using, let's see, Hooker's green here. And I'm going to come in. And this is my next shade. Now, one thing I could do is simply fill the whole thing in. But I want to start to, and I'm going to do most of that, but I want to leave some spots in there where this yellow ochre color will just come through a little bit on top of what we have preserved here. So I am going to bring them up into here because this is what will be going up into the sky. So we're keeping all of the masking down in the lower 2/3 of it, and the upper third, because we want to have it look very natural as these grasses come up into the sky. So I'll just be doing it that way. So especially near the bottom, I do want to have it filled in, and then we'll open it up a little bit as we get a little further up. All right, it is drying time. Okay, it's time to go ahead and trap the green in there with the masking fluid. So I'm going to do the same thing we just did. And if I was doing this for real, I would be going more about this speed. So I wouldn't have the big blobs on here. But I am trying to hurry. So the more of these I do, the more of that shade green will be trapped in there. Yeah. And it's handy having the color. Helps it stand out a bit. The different pens, the ruling pens, all have different characteristics. Some are pointed. This particular one is rather rounded at the end, which I really like. I've actually taken some of the pointed ones and filed it down a little bit. The original, and it probably still is used by some, the original purpose of the ruling pen was for people doing drafting, architectural work, that they would dip it into ink, and by adjusting the knob, they could get their thickness aligned for doing illustrations and drawings and things like that. So I've been using the ruling pen for about 20 years now, and it's really handy for little things, even like on a reflection of light in an eye, that type of thing. And can come in handy. Don't want to get too overly dependent on it, but it definitely has its uses. All right, so now I've trapped in some of those greens, and you know the routine. All right, this is all dry, so I'm going to be going back in now with a dark blue. I love the combination of dark blue and green, and I want to keep getting darker. This is part of the value thing. So the darker I get, let me get a more blue. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm mixing ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and that actually, if you do it in the right ratio, gives you a solid black all the way to different shades of green from warm to cool. Get just some more bluish. So I'm basically filling in the spots at the bottom here, and I'm just going to do this and we'll let it go. I could do it more subtle each time. So I've gone from very light to a medium to very dark. That's 3 shades. You could do 5, you could do 6. Again, I'm going to bring these up here into the sky area. And I want to make sure I overlap anything that I have just put down. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I want it dark at the bottom, because that's where it would be darkest down here. And then, of course, as it moves up, it's got more light coming through. And I could do, some reflections and things down here, but that's for another demo. All right, I'm going to dry it. All right, it's time to see what we have underneath. I'm going to be using what's called a rubber pickup, and it's made of rubber, and it's made to pick up rubber, which is basically what the masking is. You can also use your fingers if you want to. I've done that before, but I'm going to use this for time's sake. So I've made sure this is completely dry, very important. So I'm going to carefully lift this up. Yeah, where it's thick, it needs a little more encouragement. See how this is starting to come up like that? And you see, because of that last color, all the spaces in between are dark, which makes it look very realistic, because you would have a lot of shadow back in there. All right. Make sure I've got it all up. You can feel, run your hand over it, you can feel any little pieces remaining right in there. All right. So what we have you can see the original white in here. Here's that yellow in there. Right in here, there's that green that I put in there. So as I said, this was only 3 layers, and you could do several more, so you've got a lot more contrast in there. Now what I can do with this is I can go in and I can grab, let's say, a little bit of my green, and I can push some of these back. And I can get a little more discriminate about which ones are the really bright ones in the front here. So say I want to have that one going up, I could push this one back. So like that. Let's bring that one back. Some of these are a little thick here because of the thickness, but I'm able to paint over it and really achieve a nice effect. All right, so that gives you the idea. There's the grasses. Here's the picture again. So you can see it's got the same type of effect in there. So even doing the 3 layers, really was very effective. So hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to PM me, and happy to answer, or just ask a question in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. So, all right, just remember, keep those brushes wet.